Hi, it's Xavier. Welcome to Bonsai Retreat. And do you know what? I too, like everyone else up there, spend most of my time watching bonsai on YouTube so that I can learn how to do it. And do you know what I've discovered? This might even be one of the top secrets of YouTube bonsai. How's that for clickbait? You go on there, you have a look for a tree or a method or a technique or something you just don't know how to do properly or are not confident, and you start watching videos. Now for me, my problem, well, I've said it all along, junipers. I use the word I hate them. Well, I don't hate them, but do you know what I thought? I saw a video from Jelle of GrowingBonsai, and I thought this would be the ideal time to talk to you about that big #1 secret that we all trip over. Why on earth does bonsai look so easy on YouTube?
More than happy to come and help you. Let me just grab a code and I'll be there in a bit.
We've watched the inspiring video and thought, yep, I can do that. And you know, the very same thing happened to me when I watched Jelle and his recent video entitled Expert Juniper Bonsai Pruning. And you know what? He's done a load of qualifications, so I think, yeah, I'll watch that. So do you know what? I've got this lovely juniper root on rock, and I'm going to prove to you that if you follow someone's video, it's easy.
Let's see whether we can find a cap somewhere here. Hope I'm not too late yet. I don't know what the Xavier is up to.
Like any good prospective student, I've watched his video twice, and I've written loads of notes, and here they are. And he summarised it into pruning and thinning. And first of all, we'll look at the pruning. His first thing, he says, find the long extensions. So all I need to do is cut here.
Whoa, Xavier, what are you doing?
What are you doing here?
You can watch all the videos you want, mate, but if you don't know why you're going to prune, it doesn't make sense to start pruning. Why do you want to prune this?
Wow, he really has no idea.
First of all, the question I was going to... It's so wonderful that you're here, by the way, but I was trying to follow the example of... I was going to cut back to the first point where the brown starts. And can I take it all the way back? I mean, why have I got all this anyway?
Well, I think one thing that I am wondering, if I look at it, it looks like the tree has not grown all that much this year. Basically, if you look at a tree now, right, you have these extensions. But effectively, if you look carefully, you see the brown indeed starts very far away, all the way here. Might mean that the tree has only extended a small amount this year. Is it right that you didn't prune last year, maybe?
Ah, no, I didn't. So that green obviously represents this year's growth.
Yeah.
So the brown that's either here or indeed, well, it's like saying here, there's only a very, very small amount of growth that's happened this year.
Most likely.
So that's all last year's.
Yeah, and basically what you want to do, it's not about where the brown starts. The idea is more you prune back to the point where you want it. So if you go further into the foliage, you don't see any browning that might take place. Now, of course, if you say, well, I only want it to be this tall, you can cut it back all the way here, which actually might be a good idea. But the first question then becomes, what is your future vision for this tree? Because I think this pot is roughly about the size for a bonsai of this size. But if you let this extend, that means that you might want to get a thicker trunk, you might want to grow the tree out. So that's a fundamental choice before you start pruning, is how big do you want the tree to become? If you don't want to grow it out, you prune it back. But if you want a bigger trunk, a bigger tree, a bigger pot maybe, then you don't prune.
So the big thing, and I think it's probably the biggest fault I've got, and many of us probably have when we look at these videos, we haven't got a clear idea or objective in our minds of where we want the tree to go to begin with. So it's all very well me saying, well, point one that Jelle says is, oh, I cut back. But if I cut that back, well, will I get to thicken the trunk?
Not much. Effectively, if you leave this on and you let it grow for another year, then your trunk might add another 50% of thickness. If you prune it back now, then you lose all this ability of this foliage, because now it's just a thin whip. But this was a thin whip a year or two ago. So this will become the bushel that is now here, and you get another thin whip. So the thickness that you have here now might be there in a year or two. So if I prune it back, you stop all that extension and the fattening.
Could I use this branch? There's a branch back here, which I'm not sure whether I need, but that could equally provide thickening, couldn't it? If I allow that to grow out as a sacrifice branch.
You can let this grow out, you keep the top back. You say this is a small tree, and this I'm just going to let grow out, and that will fatten the trunk. But it is only going to fatten the trunk from here where it is attached to the main trunk. Everything above will stay thin, and only down low it fattens up.
It is so good that you came over all the way from Germany to stop me from doing that.
This is insane! How much did he pay you?
Having a plan, and we all talk about it, you know, if you don't have a plan, you fail generally, and it doesn't matter. I could follow the instructions that he gives. The instructions are perfectly right, but because I don't know whether I want to thicken it, because I haven't even designed it, thought about what branches I want, I don't know how high I want it to be, then whatever I do, and if I'm unhappy, what's the first thing I'm going to do? Well, I'll blame Jelle and say his video didn't work. Well, actually, all his steps are fine. But let's first of all take it one step further back. What you doing?
Whatever I want.
Do you know where this foliage comes from?
It's just a side branch.
I'm just looking at this tree.
Hey,
the branch attachment is here. This foliage goes all the way around and it starts here.
are we talking about here?
Yeah, this is the connection of
Who
the
wants a
branch.
close-up to see that?
Well, you see here is the branch connection, and then the branches goes underneath here. There's a little side branch here, but that's only this foliage, and all of this has come across.
So if Chief,
So it would be interesting if you can see whether this branch can actually be flipped back in there. It's a tricky operation, but
so it's, oh gosh, do you know, I hadn't even noticed that. So it goes all the way under. It's whether
it is tricky, because if we move it, we might actually tear it out at the connection or break the branch. Yeah, depending on your front, you might actually not even need all this foliage here, which would highlight the little lower trunk that you have, because now it's blocking this view. But if you remove all that, you can see the trunk, how it comes out of the soil and moves into the tree, and you just use these branches here to build your tree.
I'm going to interrupt here because I don't want to come across as saying, you know, I'm Mr. Nodding, I actually know nothing, I've never looked at the tree. I bought this for a undisclosed sum of money, and I didn't even know.
That much?
I didn't even know that branch was doing that. And I think it really, really rams home the point to certainly people at a novice level, that you've got to explore and look at your tree in detail before you even start worrying about where can I cut the green bits. Understand and know what your tree is and what it's doing. Because ultimately I've actually got to make a decision on quite a big, scary operation, really.
Yeah, it's a bit of an all or nothing situation. If you say, well, yeah, let's try to move this branch back, what it will do, it will stop you from girdling this part of the trunk, but there is a real risk of it breaking and tearing out.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, if it were my own tree, I would not hesitate a single second and just accept, if it breaks out, it breaks out. I don't really need the branch.
It's not your tree either. So
It's not my tree, so it's not my concern. It's really your choice if you really want me to work on this.
Do you feel the pressure I'm being put under? But do you know, if you've watched my channel, you know what I'm going to do. I'm not Tony Trunk Chop, but I'm also a realist. Yes, I missed that, but I still have to deal with it, and I know exactly what. My original intention, just so you know, so it makes this easier, is I was going to remove that entire lot because of where it was coming from and start concentrating on this. This as being the main branch on that side. So I have no problems with, now I've had this little discovery, of having a go at seeing whether we can bring it round. Now you may think, have we prepared for this? Well, of course we have. We've got a tie wrap. We had a little bit of...
What are you looking for? No, sit down. There, ta-da!
He's playing games with me.
Who writes this stuff?
We had a little bit of specially crafted yellow foam, which is going to substitute for...
Instead of rubber or raffia, something to protect the bark, that if we put some pressure on it, we don't automatically squeeze off the bark.
Right, so this is all about protection, because that is plainly very, very wrong branch. Very, very awkward and difficult to apply raffia to. Is there any branches I should remove first?
Yeah, I think we need to decide what is your front, right? So we have two main options. It's this. You gotta help me again. What is the front again?
coming towards us slightly.
And why wouldn't we use this side as the front? You know, well, if you're not going to say it, I'm going to say it. Look, I've been eating too much, and basically leaning into somebody is much closer than leaning away from somebody. Here you see this big belly of the tree leaning away. Speaking of big bellies, dinner?
Mushrooms.
If you flip it around, the tree is welcoming and leaning it forward, coming towards you. And this reflects the situation when you stand in front of a big tree and you look up and it looks like the tree towers over you. That's the sort of effect that you also get when the tree grows towards you. So now you said that this is the front roughly, and what you see is that here on the trunk there's this little branch that crosses the main trunk.
Yeah.
And you want to get all the foliage off anyway, so this one hinders the bending. Let's remove that completely. Make sure you don't clip off the other branch, please. Yes. You like cuttings, right?
Yes.
Good. The aim is to hold the base in place and make sure we don't damage the bark.
Okay.
So it needs to go in the loop and around the trunk.
What we're trying to do is to stop the branch from snapping at the...
Now this would cushion also the bark so you don't rip the bark when we put the ziplock on pressure.
Yeah. Are we alright to fold? Yeah. Right here is where the junction is. We don't want that to tear away, so we're protecting it, and we've got this tie on to keep that close in. Hopefully that's tight enough.
So I'm just sliding the wire here now between the branch that I want to bend and the main trunk. And now I need to anchor it.
I can hold the pot if that helps.
He has the hands of an angel.
This is not according to the standards, but you know, if it holds, it holds. Is always my philosophy.
If that's not according to the standards, and because you're qualified, does that mean if it goes wrong I can sue you? Under professional misconduct.
Depends on how much you're paying me.
Good point, very good point.
And now people that know me and my channel actually knows I hate these things.
But it's my house, my rules.
And I'm trying to help you.
Actually, right, I'm going to say now, a lot of you may be saying, hey, Dab, it's your video, why aren't you going to bend the branch? And I just said to Jelle, I'm quite happy to give it a go and a tug, and if it breaks. And he said to me, he says, I do actually have a little bit more hours under the belt for this one, and it'd be good to get it right.
Clearly we said we want to get it there, right?
Yeah.
And I have two options. I can try to just rotate it, or I can flip it down. That would mean that the foliage is upside down, but it is often easier than to just rotate it in these corners. So I'm just going to torque it a little as well. And doing this gently, holding still on the attachment even though it is firmly attached, should bring this branch down into the area where we want it. And this is something that you don't have to do in one go. You can also say, now I'm just going to leave it for a little bit. And today, later, or tomorrow, or in a week, I'm going to come back and continue if you're uncertain that it holds.
And he's raised a really important point, and that is, you don't have to rush. I keep saying in my videos, don't rush, especially if you're still learning. Don't rush anything. Go as far as you feel comfortable. It's only you involved. Come back the next day, week after. It's the same when you do tensioning, when you're trying to pull branches down. It's not a race. You just want to get it right. See the difference immediately as it's pulled away and out to the side and creating depth this way. Absolutely love it. So that we immediately come to the next stage up. And yes, we can look at doing the undergrowth and stuff, but for now let's move further up.
Here there's a small branch and a somewhat bigger branch, and there's this third branch. And this third branch, it looks like it comes from here, but actually the attachment is here. Also here the branch is growing up and then out. Very similar to this one here. Maybe during transport this young plant has been pushed together one day and therefore the branches have become intertwined a little bit. But this we could bring down into this area, remove this small one, opening up the space between this one and that one. And this one sits down almost in the middle, height-wise. Is that what you...
No.
I never get to cut.
Not surprised. All I need to do is apply some wire on this one and probably anchor it to that one.
Well, that is
Although
very
they're
short.
almost-
They're very close to
yeah.
each other. I would go up to this one or that one to anchor it, because if you put it here, you get this, what do you call it, a whip web function?
Oh gosh, it's not a handlebar thing, but yeah, so basically when you try and move this one,
then this one starts
This one
moving
moves
as well.
and
So
moves.
you always want to go at least once, ideally twice, around the trunk so the wire holds better.
yeah. Now, I am actually reasonably competent with wire, so I'm going to put the wire on, and I may even do the bit of wiggling and moving. So we'll come back when I've got the wire on. I am going to do it though. Right, some of you may feel you've missed a lot. You're probably happy you did, because it was painful to watch. Me, who thought I could wire competently, felt like an incompetent person, but thankfully Jelle was here just to keep guiding me, reminding me of the principles of wiring. I'm sure Jelle's got some great videos on principles of wiring, so I urge you to go across and look at that. You made a groaning noise.
Yeah, I don't think I have actually any principles of wiring video in
Haven't-
place. No.
I will be making one.
Right, well, we've got it to the place that I'm happy at, and bearing in mind that this branch was
There.
all the way over there, we've managed to bring it back around here. So that's a big tick, and something that I should have considered before I even started thinking about following a video.
But before anybody thinks that this is the final product, look, one thing that we did figure out is that right here, I don't know if you have a ruler with you, but there are two branches in equal height. How we're going to finish that?
Well, we ummed and ahed. I did a lot of umming, and ultimately we've got some growth here and branches here that once they get a bit stronger can actually be wired into position so that we can remove, or I can remove this one. Now, I'm not actually willing to remove that one yet. I want these to grow stronger, and I'm not happy to wire them right now. So there's nothing wrong with going, okay, I know what I'm going to do, but let's leave it for now, and that's what's going to happen.
But
So
I still think your tree is too big. It is just for the thickness of this trunk, this is way too tall. I know that you want to keep this here and keep it as a big sacrifice so the trunk can thicken.
Oh, for
Really,
goodness.
it looks a little bit awkward
Oh,
now.
whatever. Let's just cut it then.
Oh, just like that, is it?
No, just like that.
Time for cuttings, is it? That actually looks like you've almost created an apex in one cut. If you think that, then look at that. Nice and rounded top.
Do you think that was planned, everybody? So we took that entire region off, and bear in mind the first question I ask is, where exactly do I cut this back to? Well, that was the answer. And what it has done is, another area I'm really still trying to take instruction on is building an apex. One cut, and you tell me in the comments, do you think that instantly created a passable apex for this?
I think what is good to know is that there's a few small branches here also that we can grow out so that you get a full rounded top here in the end. This is just a development stage. You see a lot of demos online, or you go to a show and people show you how you make a perfect looking tree. But this is about developing a bonsai over time. This is not, it needs to look good now. It needs to develop over time. And this tree has a few branches with just few options to style. Now you just need to let it grow out, and then comes the secondary styling. And after the secondary styling, it will look very full, very compact and nice and styled. But this is the start of an apex. The whole idea that you take a branch and you just twist and turn it around in a circle and then have foliage is not as good long term as you have these little branches here that now can grow out and grow wider and form a canopy by themselves.
And you didn't see my face when Jelle actually said, what about, and he covered the whole area. He says, you got your apex straight away. Sometimes it is as easy as just looking deep into the tree and cutting and having confidence to do it. Now, there was just one final area that I was going to mention, and it's this branch here, and it's just wired out of the way. That is purely for sacrifice. What it is going to achieve is to help thicken the trunk a little bit, and next year at some point I will probably again look at this and potentially remove it then. So it's just wired out of the way. This is as much as I want to do right now, but I think it's important to go back and say, hang on, the question was, why is it that it looks so easy when you watch a YouTube video, and why can't I do it? And for those of you who hadn't really raised your hand up and go, here's the answer. Well, the bottom line was, I hadn't even reached the point where anything in that video was going to be of use to me. I still hadn't looked at my tree and gone, where am I going with it? What am I doing with it? I didn't even notice the branches are in the wrong place. So before I worry about pruning for shape or length or whatever, I actually need to establish, we keep saying, a primary, secondary structure. Until you've got that, then watching all these videos at best is going to confuse you. And I tell you what, it confused me. What are you doing?
I was wondering, do you have a video on how to propagate these junipers? Because you can grow these from cuttings really easily. And if you've ever been to a bonsai nursery, Itoigawa junipers can be quite costly. So propagating these things that you cut off might be interesting if you don't have a lot of trees.
Well,
We have two.
We have two videos. It'll be a competition to see which one's going up there or is on the end screen. But at this point, I'm going to say a massive, massive thank you to Jelle of Growing Bonsai. We've done some great collaborations together. I'm sure we're going to do more because he helps me get the trees like this and he brings my knowledge on. And for those of you who think, you know, I know more than that, well, do you know, I do know quite a lot. But sometimes it's great learning. And today, he's watched me turn into a quivering bit of jelly sometimes. I got to the point where I couldn't even wire. Hey, come back with that.
So Xavier, I'm quite pleased with what came out. This will of course now need to develop before you finish off. And I know that viewers at home might be wondering, well, why did he need my help for this? And fact is, we all develop tunnel vision. So you have your trees at home, you look at them every single day and you're sometimes just stuck. Then just getting somebody else who also does bonsai to take a look gets a fresh perspective and you get a completely new idea. So we did it here, where we brought this branch around, and we also did it on this little tree where we made a massive change, but you might not have seen that. There is another video where I have been invited for a massive breakfast, and that's where we dealt with this tree. Xavier, I'll leave the end to you.
Yep, it's a great point. And you want to see about this? Absolutely fantastic episode. Loads of questions from Jelle as well, from yourselves. Yeah,
Bonsai for breakfast.
links up there.
Worth having a look at.
Bonsai for breakfast, there's the link. Definitely need to have a look at that.
Done.
Oh,
You cut it up.